Week together, and we begin tonight with that brutal attack on Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, an assailant breaking into the couple's San Francisco home armed with a hammer. Sources telling ABC News shouting, "Where's Nancy?" The attacker then targeting her 82-year-old husband, Paul Pelosi, instead. He is out of surgery tonight to repair a skull fracture. Tonight, leaders from both parties condemning the assault. Police say they arrived at Pelosi's home after being alerted to the break-in moments before the attack. Then officers actually witnessing the assault as it was happening. Paul Pelosi suffering, quote, significant injuries, undergoing surgery to his skull. The alleged suspect arrested on the scene, now facing multiple charges, including attempted homicide. And what was discovered on his social media page? Authorities say conspiracies about the 2020 election and about COVID. The couple married for 59 years, the parents of 5 children. Tonight, there is news coming in on Paul Pelosi's condition, and ABC's Mola Lenghi on the scene in San Francisco.
Tonight, the brutal attack inside Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's home. Her husband, Paul Pelosi, beaten with a hammer in the middle of the night. Police and the FBI believe Speaker Pelosi was the intended target. A man identified by police as 42-year-old David DePape breaking into the Pelosi's San Francisco home. Sources telling ABC News the suspect entered through a glass door, shouting, quote, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" Speaker Pelosi was not home, but her 82-year-old husband, Paul, was. The men coming face to face. Police arriving on scene around 2:30 a.m., moments before the violent attack, witnessing it firsthand.
Our officers observed Mr. Pelosi and the suspect both holding a hammer. The suspect pulled the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it. Our officers immediately tackled the suspect, disarmed him, took him into custody, requested emergency backup, and rendered medical aid.
Pelosi and the suspect both taken to the hospital. The Speaker's office saying he is expected to make a full recovery. The alleged attacker facing multiple charges, including attempted homicide, burglary, and assault with a deadly weapon. The suspect's online social media pages show multiple false conspiracy theories relating to COVID-19, the 2020 election, and the federal government. A heavy law enforcement presence at the home as San Francisco police, Capitol Police, and the FBI are now jointly investigating. Authorities still trying to determine a motive. The White House saying the president and Nancy Pelosi spoke over the phone, and the president is praying for Paul Pelosi and for Speaker Pelosi's whole family. Lawmakers from both parties immediately condemning the attack. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell tweeting he is horrified and disgusted and grateful to hear Paul is on track to make a full recovery. The suspect's alleged call for Pelosi chillingly similar to the chants during the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
Nancy! Oh, Nancy!
Just 2 months ago, a rioter who carried a gun into the Capitol and threatened Speaker Pelosi was sentenced to more than 7 years in prison. Several men have been convicted in recent years of threatening the Speaker, and the Pelosi home was vandalized just last year. With just 11 days until midterm elections, the attack comes as threats of violence against lawmakers is at an all-time high. Capitol Police investigating some 9,600 cases of concerning statements and threats just last year, more than doubling since 2017. In the wake, some lawmakers have sought additional protection for their families, and this year, some government funding has been provided for lawmakers' homes. Paul and Nancy Pelosi have been married 59 years and have 5 adult children. They've lived in their home since 1987. The Pelosi family and the district attorney tonight praising the police response.
I do want to commend the San Francisco Police Department for their immediate response to this home and for swiftly making sure that Mr. Pelosi was okay and that the suspect was apprehended.
All of this very unsettling, no matter what your politics are in this country. Mola Lenghi joins us live tonight from San Francisco, right outside the Pelosi home. And Mola, we know the investigation still going on at this hour. A new statement just in tonight from Speaker Pelosi's office after surgery to Paul Pelosi's skull. Of course, the question, how's he doing tonight? What are authorities saying?
Well, David, his injuries are serious. The Speaker's office says that he suffered a fractured skull, serious injuries to his arms and hands. Now, he has undergone what's being described as a successful surgery to repair his skull, and they say that he is expected to make a full recovery, David.
Yeah, so many questions on this, Mola. We know Speaker Pelosi was in Washington. Was there security at the home or not? Because she wasn't there, and I gather there's talk tonight of heightened security moving forward, not only for the Pelosi's, but for other leaders who have faced these threats.
Yeah, that remains a question. Whether there was a police presence here, a security presence at the time of the break-in, that remains a question. And also, there's a question of whether there was any security camera footage, either at the Pelosi's home or some of their neighbors' homes. That remains to be seen, David.
Mola Lengi leading us off here on a Friday night. Mola, thank you. Now to the suspect tonight. We're learning more about the assailant. This case, among thousands of threats to lawmakers and public officials in this country, right now under investigation. I want to turn to our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, with us live from Washington. Pierre, you were telling us law enforcement now scrubbing through the suspect's past. What have you learned tonight?
David, tonight the FBI is doing a deep dive investigation into this man. Agents are seeking search warrants for any phones, computers, or other devices that might be associated with David DePapi. And investigators are interviewing family, friends, and associates. Authorities are examining a number of social media posts that appear to be connected with DePapi, espousing a range of false conspiracies about COVID-19 vaccines, the 2020 election, and the January 6 congressional hearings, David.
And this was stunning too, Pierre, what you and your team reported in late today. Authorities are also warning about the potentially dangerous chatter among extremist groups just today online in wake of this attack, celebrating the attack.
They're keeping a wary eye on those reports that extremists were actually celebrating this attack in the dark corners of social media. And tonight, a new Homeland Security bulletin warns that domestic extremists pose a heightened threat to the upcoming midterm elections. And there's been a dramatic surge in threats, not just aimed at judges, but also Congress members as well, David.
All right, Pierre Thomas in Washington on this as well tonight. Pierre, I know you'll stay on this. Thank you. Of course, all of this comes amid growing scrutiny on this potentially dangerous rhetoric only growing in this country. And tonight, Elon Musk has now taken over Twitter. He has promised to restore banned accounts, including former President Trump's. Tonight, what he's now saying about all of this. Here's our chief business correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis.
Tonight, with the level of potentially dangerous political rhetoric higher than ever, a new leader of...
You know, this country is just basically folding in. It's folding in with all the violence, the parties. This should have never taken place. This is a violation. Just like David Muir said, it doesn't matter what parties. You do not do this to a human being. It's a horrible thing to hear this on the news. And to have a hammer being hammered on the head and having to, I mean, this is something that I think about break-ins, about how do you really protect yourself. They don't want you to use guns. They don't want you to do this. They don't. If you do anything, you are the victim. So I don't know how it works, but if someone was to break into this house right now with a hammer and start running and screaming, and I happen to take out a gun, and someone had called 911 and heard all the screaming and appeared here, I would be the one in trouble for having that gun, and even if that person was on my property. And the thing was that I was just at a conference last night on defense in Nyack, Connecticut. In Nyack, Connecticut, there was a conference on how to protect yourself and what to do and what not to do. There were no lawyers there, but everything is costly. And you are always the victim. The people that are innocent are always the victim. And this is what's wrong in this country also. Prayers to the Paul Pelosi. And even though I'm not for Nancy Pelosi, prayers to her husband and prayers to their family, no matter what, and push everything else aside. It's very upsetting to hear this. It's the Lady Ranger. I just came in from taking a beautiful, beautiful sundown video here in Branford, in Guilford, Connecticut. The two towns connect. The sundown was gorgeous. I came in and heard the news and I was like, what? What could we do to make this country click? Because it's folding in all around us in every aspect. Pray for the leaders. Pray for this country. Pray for all the people. I've said enough tonight. Good night.